So this is your first edition of Masterclass. So here we go. Without any further, let me invite our guest to the stage. So we can officially get started with today's webinar, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, hello everybody. Let's start. Let's start with today's topic, which is how to build vocabulary for GRE. So this is the agenda of today's masterclass. First, let's realize the importance of vocabulary in GRE. Then understand some of the problems that students face in learning and remembering GRE words, and then become familiar with some useful techniques, and also look at some smart ways to build your vocabulary rapidly as is needed for GRE. But I think first and foremost, what's more important is to understand why vocabulary is needed and how is it going to be used in the various question types that you have in the verbal section of GRE, so that you learn the words in the right way as it would be useful in application and in the context of GRE. Fine. One of the most popular misconceptions is that the verbal section of GRE is about vocabulary, or it's only about words. It's true that there are three types of questions: text completion, sentence equivalence. Both are fill in the blank types, and then you have a different question called reading comprehension, wherein there is a passage and you have to answer questions on that, right? But the fill in the blank type of questions, which are called as text completion and sentence equivalence, you need vocabulary to answer them, but they are not a test of vocabulary. The earlier versions of GRE, where you had analogy question types and you had antonyms, those sort of almost were dependent on knowledge of words, or they were greatly dependent on vocabulary. But this version of GRE is not actually a test of vocabulary. You need to know vocabulary. You need to have knowledge of words or have a good vocabulary, but it's not a test of vocabulary. What is it exactly then? Let's see through some of the examples in the next few slides. Yeah, you have to learn words, but it's not a test of vocabulary. So in this format of the GRE, you can learn relatively fewer words compared to the old format. In the old format, you probably had to learn something like 3,000, 3,500 words. But here, if you have about 800 or 1,000 word vocabulary, but you should learn the right words, you can do very well in this format. And then if you know about 1,500, 1,800, it will greatly help you. But you don't have to learn 4,000 and 4,500 words like in the old GRE format. So what is important here is you will be given sentences in text completion and sentence equivalence. There are actually sentences with blanks, right? So the first step is to understand the argument or the topic or the context which is given in the sentence, in the incomplete sentence. So that getting that right is the first step in cracking this format of the GRE, verbal section of this GRE. And then, of course, vocabulary comes next. Let us understand this better through some examples. So it's somewhat like this. You know that in maths you have formulas and concepts, right? But just by knowing formulas and concepts, can you crack problems? Can you solve problems? No, right? So what else do you need? What else do you need to crack maths problems? Apart from concepts and apart from knowledge of formulas, you need to visualize. You need to visualize the problem that is given, the situation that is given, and then you need to have the right problem-solving skills to crack that problem. Right? For example, if it's a permutation combination problem, you have to visualize what's happening, who is being arranged, who should sit next to him, and so on. And then you should know which formula to apply. Likewise in geometry and so on, right? So you have concepts, you have formulas, and then you use your problem solving skills to crack the problem in maths. Likewise, in the verbal section of GRE, your fundamental skills are vocabulary and your reading skills. a good knowledge of words, not 4,500 and so on, about 1,000, 1,200 words. And you should have reading skills. You should be fast in reading passages of scholarly nature, of academic nature. And the reading skills will also help you in cracking text completion and sentence equivalence questions, because the sentences that you get in text completion and sentence equivalence, they're almost like of the RC format. They have some view, they have some opinion, and you have to get them right. So your vocabulary and your reading skills greatly help, followed by but what actually helps you is visualization from the incomplete sentence. Quickly you have to understand what's happening there, and then you have to use your verbal reasoning skills to guess the right word, and then finally your vocabulary helps you in choosing the right words from the choices. Is that clear to all of you? Right. Okay, good. Sneha and all. Yes. Pile does. Fine. So let us now understand. So now I think the analogy with maths is clear. So let us now see practically what am I talking about. So let's understand what is a sentence in English or any language, but let us stick to English, and let's understand the mechanics of a sentence, especially in a typical GRE type sentence completion question. Okay, look at this sentence. Can you read this sentence? Okay, and can you try to visualize the situation described by this partially completed sentence? This sentence is partially complete. There is a blank. Can you visualize? So tell me which of the following is true. 1, 2, 3, 4. Based on what do you gather from the incomplete sentence? Which one is true? Which one is okay? Just pick out the ones that you feel are correct. Of 1, 2, 3, 4. There are more than one correct, right? So most of you are picking 1, 2, 4, right? So you're getting it right. Some of you have not picked 1. Fine. Okay, right. So so 3 is not said in the sentence, right? 1, 2, and 4 are spoken about. You can gather 1, 2, 4. From this sentence. So this is what you visualize or extract out of the sentence. Now let's move on. This is what most of you guessed, right? So why is 3 not true? Which part in the sentence makes you say that 3 is not correct? Right, Sneha Roy is correct. No one expected. Harshini, Akanksha, all of you right, because of the word no one expected. Shreyans, that's correct. Neha Singh. Right, so no one expected is quite clear. So right, okay. Now let's move on. So what should be the word in the blank based on what you understood, what you visualized? What should be the word that should fit the blank? Okay, so fine. It should be exceeded, right? Sai Pratap says met. Rashmita says was contrary to. Is it exceeded the expectation or was contrary to? What did the people in the company feel? What did Riya Sharma? I think you're right. What did the people in the company feel? Did they think that it would be a runaway success? Yeah. So they didn't expect. So Yashaswini, you're right. They did not expect it actually. So this what happened was contrary to their expectations, right? Okay. So now, okay, you could at this point both could be the answers, exceeded or was contrary. So, but you at least know that it is not met, right? So now let's go to the question and now see the actual choices. So now amongst these, this will be like the typical GRE question that you will face. Right. So now you can guess. So you visualized everything from the sentence, and you also predicted the answer. Right. So what's the answer? So Harshini says belied. AN says belied. Ram Yadav relied. Right. So only so most of you are picking belied as the answer. Right. I think few of you are picking exemplified. The exemplified is to become an example. That's not the right word, right? So now, do you see how things flow in a typical sentence completion question? You need to have skills in visualizing. You need to have skills in reasoning by which you predict the word, and then finally you should have the right vocabulary, right? So belied is the answer, because the meaning of belied is to fail or fulfill, fail to justify a claim or expectation that the company had some expectation, but the actual performance, it did not justify the expectation that the company had of that product, right? Example is Dhoni's performance in the current IPL session belies all the pre-IPL criticism. So before the IPL, most of the critics said that he's not in form, he won't do well, he should not play. But then Dhoni's performance in the season has belied all those criticism, right? So okay, Prasoon Srivastava has a question. Yeah, what's the question, Prasoon? Yeah, can you type quickly, Prasoon? So Prasoon asks, so in this type of question, how we can decide the degree of selection of word? Right. Let's come to it slowly. Let's come to it slowly. That is what, that's what the visualization of the context plays a key role. We'll come to it. We'll come to it. There are a lot of words with near similar meanings, right? In English, there are a lot of words with near similar meanings, and therefore you also have to learn. When you learn a word, you also have to see why it is different from other words which have near similar meanings. Okay, I'll come to it, Prasoon. That's a good point. So you also need to know the minor differences in words. I have a slide on that and I'll explain. Shruvarti Banerjee says the options are very close. Yeah, that's correct, Shruvarti. That's how the choices will be set. So in addition to knowing, having a vocabulary, you should also be able to differentiate words which have near similar meanings. So I'll come to that. Fine. So so good questions. So I'll cover this in this session. So you got it right. So I hope you understood now that what I meant by visualization and verbal reasoning skills. We'll see more. So this is where the TC, the text completion question, and the sentence equivalence questions, two important questions in GRE, in this format of the GRE. This is where you'll need vocabulary. But as we saw now, you'll have to visualize, think critically, and then predict the word. So therefore, you need to know two things. One is you need to know the definition of the word, the meaning of the words in the choices very clearly. And second, you should also know what role or what function the word plays in the sentence. So let us see this point more clearly. What do I mean when I say that what function or what role a word plays in a sentence? Let's see with examples. So in general, a sentence is nothing but a set of words or phrases, right? And words are actually conceptual units of a sentence, because each word, like just as in maths, when you say a diagonal, it is a concept. When you say circumference, it's a concept. Similarly, actually, every word in a sentence is actually a conceptual unit, right? Do you agree with it? When you say whenever you use other than words which connect, like is, be, and so on, but there are most of the words, the adjectives, the nouns, the adverbs in a sentence actually are suggesting a concept, or they represent a concept, and then they play a role in conveying an idea that the sentence wants to convey. Right? So let us see some examples of what I mean. Look at this sentence. Look at this sentence. Not to miss the bus, Martin picked up speed and ran faster. This sentence is same as Martin picked up speed and ran faster so as not to miss the bus. So the two sentences are equivalent. Okay. So now, who is the subject? Who is the subject in this sentence? Who is the person that is being talked about? That is Martin, right? That's Martin. Then what does he do? He picked up speed and ran faster. So this is the action that he took, and ran faster. These words give us their adverbs, or they tell us how did he perform that action. So he could have also ran at a gentle pace. He could have sprinted, and so on. So some words describe how the action was performed, and then in some sentences you may have information as to why the subject performed that particular action. So typical sentences are, it will talk about a subject. The subject need not always be a human being. It could be, for example, an abstract topic like an election. That could be the subject, or poverty could be a subject, right? So, but a sentence will talk about a subject, what is happening to that subject, how the action is being performed, how is it happening, and finally, it could tell us a reason for why such a thing is happening. Does this make sense? Most of the sentences are like this. Do you agree? It's only that we have to see this structure in any sentence that we read. Are you with me, guys? Do you agree? So all sentences are as simple as that. It's only that you have to see this structure and then predict the word. Okay, let's see more. Okay, now let's look at a typical GRE sentence. Take a minute and read it carefully. Does it look confusing in the beginning? This is a typical sentence, but look at it very carefully. Just see whether, can you see a subject? Can you see what action is happening? Why it is happening? And how it is happening? Can you guess these? So again, look for the subject, what is it doing, why it is doing, and how it is doing. Okay, are you thinking, all of you? Okay, so I guess you read it. Let's see this. Okay, so who is the subject here? Who is the subject? Is it the articles? Are they the scholars, the professors, authors? Akanksha says scholars. It's going too fast. Yeah, so most of you have guessed that it is scholars. Only few have said it's assistant professors. Right, most of you, that's good. So most of you have guessed it right. The subject is the scholars. And which scholars? Scholars making their way as assistant professors. A particular type of scholars who want to become assistant professors. So can you visualize these people? Can you visualize these people? Do such people come to your mind? Young people who must have just finished PhD wanting to be profs, right? Okay. So that's right. Most of you got it right. So this whole line actually is the subject. The rising generation of scholars, new scholars, making their way as assistant professors. Okay. And now let me ask you a question. What does article mean here? Article has a lot of meanings, right? Like your phone is an article, your pen is an article. What does article mean in this context here? Can you guess? Yes, Harshini got it right. Who else? Riya got it right. Krishnan Mohan got it right. Sriji Balaji got it right. Yes, it's right. So these articles here are nothing but papers, publications, scholarly work. So these are not articles as in a cell phone or a pen and so on, right? So Utkarsh also got it right. So you got it right. So you visualize it right. So since we are talking about scholars, articles here should be papers on publication, right? And what does cycle mean here? Now, can you guess? Is it the bicycle or those kind of cycles? Cycle also has a lot of meaning, right? Yeah, Mansi gets it right. Many of you got it right. Ashwin got it right. Right. So it is a process. That you got it right. It's not cycle as in a bicycle or a physical cycle. It's a process, right? Right. You got it right. So now see, that's what you're doing. You're visualizing and understanding other words which have multiple meanings, but you got the context, and now you're interpreting the words correctly in the context. Now, do you guys see what I mean by every word is a concept and it plays a role in this sentence? Are you able to see that? The very answers that you gave, right? Okay. So let's move on further. So is this kind of a picture that comes to your mind? Young scholar, person who has just finished PhD, right? So this is what should happen in your mind when you read sentences, just as you do in permutation, combination, probability and all that, the picture comes to your mind, right? So that is how, or like you're solving speed problems, train, platform, those things immediately come to your mind, right? So visualization is very important so that the right meaning of the words, like you guys guess the words article, cycle very correctly, though they have multiple meanings. So this is right. So the subject can be very well replaced, by XXX, some variable where XXX is this. Now does it make the sentence simpler? Now that the subject here was quite long, the phrase was quite long. It makes it easy now, right? So now can you guess what is happening? What is the subject doing here? What are the young scholars doing? What are they doing? Harshini says enact. Enact what? Are they enacting? So what is the relation between the articles, that is the publications, and what are the young scholars doing? Scholars who want to be profs. What is the action? They are citing. Triya says, Rishabh says they're citing other scholars. That's correct. They're writing. Vedika gets it right. Right. Vivida says writing. Ashwin says publicizing. I think you meant publishing is what you meant. Right. Sanjana says is right. Publishing their articles. Right. So you got it right. Supriya says publishing articles. Right. And they're publishing articles and they're citing. What are they doing? They're not just writing articles, but they are also citing other well-known authors. Right? They are also in their work. They also refer to people, other senior professors or other researchers in the world. Why are they doing that? Why are they referring to other authors, other well-known authors? So now there is a reason. So yeah, the subject is young profs. Action they are publishing, and why are they publishing, and why are they citing other people? Right, Rishabh gets it right. So that their publication gets accepted very quickly. That's correct. So Gurdeep says to get scholarship. Yeah, kind of right. To get scholarship, that's correct. Or it could be to get better attention. Ankit Kada is saying that's correct. So they have a reason why they are doing that, right? Okay. So now that's great, guys. I mean, you visualized it pretty well. So this is what you have to do patiently in the actual exam. Okay, let's move a step further in the same thing. So is this correct? So we know that XXX means young profs. They're writing about relatively well-known authors or work because it will make them easier to get their scholarship published, right? Their publications per se. So articles dash other articles, and so the cycle begins. So what's the right word? What do you think will fit the blank? Can you guess now? Yeah, Ankit Kade got it right. AN gets it right. AN, what's your name, AN? Pranav, it's not correct. Rishabh, not so correct. Okay, AN is Anant. Okay. Citing, eulogizing says Utkarsh. Cite says Harshini. Article citing another article is not correct. Now, what are they doing actually? They're publishing, right? Right. Sai Pratap is correct. Publishing. They're referring, right? And also correlate with cycle. What cycle begins? One author, young author, writes papers. He quotes some other authors. What will other young scholars do? Other students also do the same. Mansi Tejpal is right. She says that other students will also do the same, right? It's not copying Sai Pratap. What she said is correct. When one of it happens, right, in student circle. If you do something and you know X does something, and then Y will also do if it's going to get benefit, right? Okay. So you try to repeat or duplicating, says Gumani. Yeah, something similar. So you have to think of a word that is like duplicating or fine. So let's see now. So now this is how it will appear. Now you know everything. You've guessed everything. You've visualized, and you know. So now tell me what happens. So you also know that the students keep on publishing. Yeah, it's a chain reaction. Ankit Kade is right. You're visualizing well. Yeah, a lot of you have got this word correct. Anant, Rashmita, I think all of you got it. Mostly all of you got it right. Some of you have picked accelerate. That is because of lack of vocabulary. Right. Beget is the right answer. So good job, those who thought. Megan, I think she also got it right. So many of you got it right. I can't read all the names because it's rolling off very fast, but I understand. So beget is the right answer, and good that many of got it right. So this is where vocabulary plays a role. So it's only the last point that you need to know all the words correctly. So I guess fine tune, accelerate, endanger. These were common words, right? So most of you would know these words, right? B, D, E. How many of you know procrastinate? What is procrastinate? Akanksha says B, Utkarsh says me. Most of you know procrastinate. Yeah, postpone. So that's also a common word, right? Postpone. So only word that you probably difficult here is beget, right? Is beget here. So this is what the vocabulary plays a role in the last stage. So what happens? Let's take further. Suppose you don't. So suppose you didn't know the difficult words. Let's say you didn't know bigot and you didn't know procrastinate. Then you would most likely choose one of these words. So that's the reason why in this ABC, which seems closest? I know it's not the right answer, but which is closest? Which one would you choose? Ashwin says B. See, most of you are selecting C, that is accelerate. Accelerate seems somewhat close because A is doing, so B will do, so C will do, and so on. So this is what, this will be, when you do not know vocabulary, you will go and choose the closest word, and that will be wrong. So accelerate is kind of close because, it looks like student 1 is doing, therefore student 2 will do, hence student 3 will do, and 4, and so on. Utkarsh is asking, why not fine tune? Fine tune will not suit, articles will not fine tune other articles. Fine tune is the process when, you have something, a code or something, and you are making minor changes to make it perfect, right? You have an engine, it's working perfectly, and you want to do minor changes to that so that the efficiency increases. That is called fine tune, right? What is happening here is one student is publishing and quoting a senior prof, then other students also do the same, right? And then one paper leads to another paper and another paper and so on, which are more or less similar. Is this fine, Utkarsh? So something like accelerate, produce will be the right word. Okay. So this is how the choices will be set. And in case you do not know the meaning of the right word, you will end up picking most likely accelerate, or in some cases fine tuning. Is this fine? Okay. So here is where the nuances help you a lot. That is the difference in the meaning of near similar words helps you in. Prasoon is asking, is this, so this will be the thumb rule for all the questions and the vocab part will come in? Yeah, kind of, what we are trying to understand, Prasoon, is how should you learn words? So from these examples, let us understand how you should, how are you going to use the words in the test, and therefore how you should learn them. Is that fine, Prasoon? So here is the summary from this experience. You of course need to know definition. That's the first stage. Okay, but you should know the typical context in which they are used. That is much more important. And finally, how do they differ from similar words? Is this fine? So these are keep this in mind when you learn words. Of course, when you first read an unfamiliar word, you will first read the definition, right, and get familiar with. But when you start revising little by little, start asking those things, asking these kind of questions, like which are the situations in which these words are used. This of course will come from usage. When you learn usage, you'll understand the typical context. Learn more and more usage statements, see how they are used, and finally, when you revise, you start thinking about how does this word differ from other words which are similar. Is this fine, folks? So far, so good. So now let's see more. Let's get deeper and deeper into this. What exactly should you do? And so here is, let me give you another example of when I say that many of the words are similar. But there is difference in the intensity. There is difference in the context that are used. So look at the words in this example. There is admonish, there is censure, there is criticize, there is castigated. All these are used in the context when somebody wants to pull up someone else. Pull up as in criticize or shout at someone else. Okay. So can you tell? So if you look at this word admonish. Admonish is typically used in informal context. Okay, like a mother shouting at you. She does not really want to hurt you, right? She wants to improve you, or your principal pulling you up. So in that case, his intent, though he shouts at you, his intention is to, the HOD shouts at you. The intention is not to really put you down, but to improve you. The motive behind shouting at you is your improvement. There is goodwill. In that informal context, you will use admonish, right? But when the context is serious, let's say a human right violation, and then when you criticize somebody for a very serious issue and the context is very formal, you would use a word called censure. Is it fine? Right? Another word is castigated or criticize. It is severe criticism, like typically what opposition would do to the ruling ruling government, right? The BJP and Congress, they will exchange, they will castigate one another, right? Can you see the difference in the words? The intensity is different, the context in which they are different, used are different, though they are all related words, right? You cannot say my mom censured me. That will look foolish. Similarly, the governor admonished the chief minister would also look foolish. Does it make sense to you? Mansi Tejpal is asking how are censure and castigate different? Yeah, they're quite close. Censure and castigate is quite close, but castigate has more of criticism, element of criticism in it, whereas censure is you're pulling up somebody. No, you're finding a big fault and pulling up somebody. But does that make a difference, Mansi? Castigate is to pure criticize. Censure is to pull up. Take somebody for a task. Like a violation, a major human right violation, or stuff like that. You would censure, or a policy, for example, demonetization. If that had caused a major economic debacle, then the government would have been censured. Is this fine, Mansi? Yeah. So I think read more examples, and I think you need to. That's the reason why you need to understand the nuance of similar words and the situations in this situation in which these words are used. Sneha Roy is asking how to find the degree of closeness of words. I think that is better if to do this. You have to learn. It's better that if you learn words which are similar in meaning, you learn at one time, so that automatically you will ask yourself what is the difference between this and that, and slowly you will learn. Is that fine, Sneha? So there are apps like WordBot where we cluster words with similar meanings together to make it easy for you to learn. Okay, so now let's move on. Okay, so now you know that ultimately nobody is going to ask you the meaning of a word in GRE, right? So you will be actually be asked to fill the word in a sentence, right? And you know that a sentence now, it talks typically about a subject and what the subject is doing, why it is doing, and the manner in which it is doing the action, right? So study words which fall in this bracket. For example, a subject could be a novice, somebody who is new to a field, or he could be a veteran who knows this field inside out, or he could be a scholar. An erudite is a person who has a scholarly knowledge of a subject. He's different from veteran. Veteran is a guy who has experience. You call a veteran soldier, but you don't say a erudite soldier, right? Erudite general, right? Now, if you have a prof who's an authority in that area, you would call him an erudite. Do you understand? Right. So learn words, which describe a subject. That is one. Learn words which tell you why a particular action is performed. So words like ameliorate. Ameliorate means to reduce the intensity of somebody's usually pain. Like you have somebody has a physical pain, and then there is a painkiller drug. It ameliorates his suffering, right? Or words, like motivate. It brings somebody's enthusiasm. It boosts up somebody's enthusiasm, right? Words like this, or words like incite. Incite is to incite violence, for some political reason or whatever. So learn words which talk about why an action is being performed. Fine. And finally, words which tell you the manner in which an action is performed. Is it being, for example, an act, is it being performed grudgingly, without interest, or is it being doing with alacrity, with enthusiasm and with energy, or is the work being done casually, without bothering about the reasons, or is it being done dexterously with a lot of skill? Is this fine? So learn words which tell you more about a subject, about different types of action, and words which tell you the motive of that action. Is this fine? at a broad level. So then the next question is, what kind of words should you not really bother about? So don't learn. I think it's best to not to bother about words which are just definitions of something. For example, like gynecologist, podiatrist, jury. These are specific functions. You will not have a synonym of a gynecologist. You will not have a synonym of a jury. These are very specific terms which are more or less like definitional, right? So likewise, technical terms like keel, rudder, ballast. These are parts of a submarine. Ballast has a particular purpose. It increases the weight of the submarine so that the submarine can sink. So these kind of words are unlikely in the choices because they are very definitional words. If you try to make a sentence using these words, most likely the rest of the sentence will be its definition. Am I making sense? So they will not test you on pure vocabulary. Therefore, these kind of words which are pure definitional, they stand for only one concept and they do not have synonyms. These are unlikely in the GRE. So you can read for fun, but don't bother too much about words like these. Does it make sense to you guys? Words typically, that do not have synonyms. They are definitional. They stand only for one thing. Unlikely that they will have variants. Fine. Okay, but don't worry too much about it. How do I decide? Most of the word lists from good sources will ensure that these kind of words are not in your. These are not in the GRE word list. Vishwanath says ballast has another. It's a part of a tubelite. You're right, ballast. It's a very technical word. So it's unlikely like words like ballast will come in a text completion sentence in GRE. No, it's a component. So you won't have in good old GRE this would come because a ballast would allow you to start an activity or it had a function. It will sink a submarine. So they used to have something called as an analogy question in which these kind of words were very useful. Or like say misogynist, they would say misogynist : women. A misogynist is the person who hates women. So then they will have another pair which hates somebody. Do you get it? In old GRE, they had this question type called analogy, in which these kind of words played a role. But most of the word list for new GRE, they would naturally not have these kind of words. So don't mug up unnecessarily too many words which are more of definitional nature. Himanshu has a question. To understand comprehensive type questions, we need to know these words. He's asking. Comprehensive, I guess you mean reading comprehension, right? Yeah, but in reading comprehension, what happens is there is a whole passage. So many times the passages are standalone. You don't need to. The passages that are chosen typically have words. The passages that they have in reading comprehensions do not assume that you have any extra knowledge. They are supposed to be standalone. So you may have a difficult word, but you will not have conceptual words like this. Is this fine, Himanshu? The passages in RC are supposed to be standalone. They don't. They just expect you to have a general knowledge that a graduate should have, graduate of any field, but not specialized knowledge of a subject. Fine. Okay. So now the most important questions. I think that's what you'd be interested in. What words to learn? How to learn a word? How many to word? And how to retain? That's the most important. These are the most important questions in your mind, right? How many? How? And how to retain? Is this right? So these are the common problems. So now we have an idea what not to learn or what type of words to learn. So learn more of subject types, like erudite and so on. Learn more of action types and learn more of adverb type of words, how that action is performed. So to give a broad idea, and don't worry about it because most word lists designed for GRE, if it's from a good source, they would have taken care of all this. Fine. So how many words to learn? As I said in the beginning, about 1,000 in my opinion should be good, but the right words. And if you learn more than that, 1,500, 1,800, that will be good. But ensure that you know the words thoroughly, as in where that word is used, in which context it is used, and two, how does it differ from other words which have near similar meanings. So as you know, the passages are scholarly articles from history, astronomy, biosciences, and so on, the RC passages. And the sentences are also like, like sentences from scholarly articles. Like we saw now, the research scholar one, they are also usually scholarly articles. It won't be story. The sentence in text completion, sentence completion, they won't be story-like. So it's better to learn words which come in scholarly articles. That's the reason one of the best ways of developing both reading skills as well as vocabulary is to start reading scholarly articles, like the editorial sections of good newspapers, essays, and opinion pages in newspapers. That should be sufficient. You need not read literature, story, novels. That's not needed. If you just read scholarly articles or even editorials from 2-3 newspapers regularly, you will definitely develop the right vocabulary that is needed for GRE, for this GRE. Fine. So that's what I was saying. 1,000 words are good. If you can master 2,000, 2,500, it's an overkill. 1,500, 1,800 should be good. Fine. So other thing is, ETS does not prescribe the fixed list. It does not say that we will ask only these words, but typically based on old questions that people have, based on the RC passages, people pick out words which are typically used in GRE questions and passages, and that's what people collate and give it to students. So we have an application called as WordBot. How many of you are aware of it? Are some of you aware of this, or are you using it? Fine. Aditya is using, Supriya, Krishna doesn't know, Akanksha. So quite a few looks like are using it. Ankush, Satyam, and so on. So there we have word lists, from 21 to 30. We keep on revising it. So currently 21 to 30 has words which are current, which we feel are should know for GRE. And each word list has about 100 words, and that makes it 1,000. A total of 1,000 words that you should know. We keep on revising this, and if you have time, if somebody has more time, he can read. He can go through lists 1 to 20, about another 2,000 words. So I think this 21 to 30 that we have in our WordBot are carefully chosen to cover words like this. Megan wants to know, how can I access WordBot? So if you log on to GREH, create an account and log on to GREH, you will find that in My Applications. Fine. And I think I can ask Vishnu to talk about WordBot after this session. So WordBot is one of our apps which helps you in vocab building. So the most important question is how to learn the words then. Okay, we already have discussed about it. So now it's most like a summary. So these are the fears that one has, right? Fear of starting, tending to forget after having learned a lot of words, inability to apply in the context despite knowing the meaning. So you will start knowing the meaning, but you don't know how and where to use, right? These are the typical problems that you face when you prepare vocabulary. Okay, this is all true. But remember that if you start thinking of words as concepts, just as you have in geometry or mathematics, then you will overcome this fear. You will realize that it's not impossible task. Just treat it as concepts in mathematics, and just that you may have words near similar words for that concept. Like I showed you censure and admonish and so on. So each of this is a concept, and you may have multiple concepts to describe the same thing with slight difference. Right? If you look at words like that, it will help you overcome the fear of learning words. So whenever you read and you look at the sentence as subject, action, verb, and why the subject is doing that action. When you start looking at things like that, then all the words will start looking as concepts to you. That's a good starting point. You change your attitude to amassing your vocabulary. So if you look at it just as a mugging up exercise, a word, and I have to mug it, and I have to revise like tables. Like in school days, we used to mug up tables, right? So if you look at it that way, it's going to be boring and it's going to be a difficult exercise. On the contrary, you look at it more like concepts. Start reading these editorial articles apart from using word lists. Then the combination, one will supplement the other. What you learn in word list, you'll start seeing in real life. In real life, you'll start seeing more words, and that too in real life, you'll see the words in context. And then it will help. One will help the other. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So understanding the sentence structure and looking at words conceptually is one way of rapidly adding words to your vocabulary. Some useful techniques are learning words through roots and prefixes and suffixes, but note that all words do not have good roots or prefixes or suffixes, but whatever words in GRE have prefixes and suffixes, learn it that way. Most of the words can be learned through images. By that I mean an image associated with that word. If the image is good, it might help you retain the word better in your mind. It will help your recall. Okay. Use mnemonics where it makes sense, and reading definitely helps. Reading and visualizing words definitely is the strongest approach in my opinion. So you have time, you guys. It's just May, and many of you will writing only 2-3 months later, right? Or 3-4 months later. So start cultivating the habit of reading, and you just have to read editorials. Don't have to bother about reading novels and so on. And learn words with similar and opposite meanings together if possible, because many of the word lists for GRE, they will club words with near similar meanings together, right? Most of the good vocabularies for GRE will already have done this for you, so you don't have to bother about clubbing things together. But just ensure that you use those kind of word lists. Okay, so I guess now you understand what is learning by root words, right? Here, amoral. So in front of a word. Not all words starting with A, but some words starting with A will create an opposite of the word that follows it. For example, moral. Amoral means somebody who is not moral. Atheist is somebody who does not believe in God. Atheist, right? And so on. So some words, if you can locate, apathy is again somebody who. Pathos means feelings, and apathy means somebody who does not have feelings for something. Does that make sense? So, like some of the words in GRE have utkarsh is right. A creates a negative sense. So wherever words have roots or prefixes, use that. But don't expect all the words in GRE to have this, right? So we have collated words which have Greek and Latin roots. They are there in word list 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Of the WordBot application that I was talking about. All words in GRE do not have, but there are some 800 words, they'll be available here. So those of you who like to go through roots, they'll find this useful. Or you can go through prefixes and suffixes like this. Some words will give you this. Okay. Images are very useful. This is for a word crestfallen. Crestfallen means you're sad. So I guess most of us in India at least follow cricket, and when you drop a catch, you can imagine this scene, right? The fielding side, especially if it's an important wicket and they drop it. That's what this is what I feel. So images, associated images with the word might be a good way to visually remember the context and the word, right? So again, in WordBot, we have provided images for all the words that are there in the WordBot, so it will help you. Sometimes people have said that our images are the image could be improved. So if you use the WordBot and you find that the images can be improved, use the feedback button and tell us that you want a better image, or you feel that the image does not convey the meaning of the word and so on. But we have provided images for all the words, so it will help you there. Okay. Then you can use mnemonics, but I feel what are mnemonics? Mnemonics are you play with the word so that in a way that it makes it easy for you to remember. For example, egregious is extremely bad behavior, egregious behavior. So somebody could think about egregious. So somebody could imagine this as people throwing eggs at something they do not like. So they may break up egregious like this, whereas someone else might see that egregious is somewhat like religious and the opposite of it, right? Religious is good, so egregious is bad. So this is very much personal. So if you see some symmetry in the word, or some, sometimes a word in your native language, you might find a word in the native language which is, and it makes you easy for you to remember this English word. So in that case, that word in your native language or a phrase in your native language can be a mnemonic. So this, you can be creative about some words where it's hard for you to remember without image or without usage. And if you see such patterns, which you can note it down in your word list so that it's easy for you to remember. But mnemonics is very personal. What makes sense to me may not make sense to you. So that's why it's best to have your own personal mnemonics, in my opinion. So in WordBot, same app, we can add notes, private notes, where you can record your mnemonics so as to make it easy for you to revise and remember. So mnemonics is one way. The other way is learn words along with synonyms and learn along with their opposite, their antonyms. So it's easy then you learn words in a context. So this again in the WordBot, for every word we also give you synonyms and antonyms. So when you're revising, you can learn up. It's advisable not to make it too complicated when you're reading the word for the first time. When you learn a word for the first time, just stick to the word meaning and its usage. Read a few usage so that you understand the context in which it is used. But subsequently, when you revise, start learning the word along with its antonyms and synonyms. So you start seeing the nuances, the difference in the words. Is it fine? Any questions, anybody? Let's see if I have any questions. What are the important word lists we need to concentrate? Vishwanath is asking. So Vishwanath, that's there in the WordBot, 21 to 30 word list, 1,000 words. Adarsh Singh is asking, is there any app for accessing WordBot? Yeah, the WordBot itself is an app. So maybe after this presentation, I can ask Vishnu to show how to access it. Mansi Tejpal is asking, how many words should we aim to learn in a day? Okay, Mansi, in my experience, about 10 to 15 new words will be a good target, and also revise 15-20 words that you have already learned before. So keep proper notes, categorize by themes, and learn 10 to 15 new words and keep on revising the old words. Beyond that, it should be hard. I think max 20 is what I feel one can learn. Srisha is asking, is the WordBot a free tool? Yes, it's a free tool, and it's yeah. Pranav is asking, I'm planning to write GRE exam at 30th. Okay, Pranav, I can answer your questions. Very personal, so one-on-one. Okay, Upendra is asking, any websites you recommend for editorials? Yeah, I find this Hindu editorials is good. Then Telegraph of Calcutta, I find their editorial articles quite good. The language is good. You can forget the politics and all that. Telegraph, and amongst American, I find the Economist very good. In fact, I find Economist articles close to GRE RC passages. So Economist, Hindu, Telegraph is what I would suggest. But if you find these articles difficult, it's fine to use Times of India or Hindustan Times. Their language is a bit easier, and there are blogs in Times of India. Those articles are also nice, and some of them use good language and words. Does that answer, Upendra? Okay, so reading is a good habit. It will help you both in RC as well as it will complement your learning of words using wordless. Supplement, yeah, or complement, yeah. The next part is, okay, we know how to learn. Now, how do you retain words? So the best way to retain, one of the best ways is to write your own usage statements. And try to write usage statements from your memory. Don't bother if your grammar is right or wrong. But write it, which into a sentence which is close, which is based on your memory or your views or your ideas. Okay? For example, let's say Zephyr. Zephyr is a mild, cool breeze. So let's say you went to a hill station or something with your family in the past, and you really experienced that the visit to the hill station was memorable. You walked up in the morning to some point, and there was a cool breeze flowing there. So I think use words more from your experience. Or like goad. Goad means to provoke. So in college, in school, we have guys who play pranks, right? They make you do some mischief. Do you know such guys who trigger people to make mischief or fun of the teacher or trouble some other student to rag? So if you can, associate goad with such a person, it makes you easy to like acrimony. Acrimony is acute bitterness. You could think of India-Pakistan relations, or Telangana-AP relations once upon a time, and so on. Right. So try to make usage from your experience. That's the best way, and note it down in your notes. Somebody is asking me how to memorize these words daily, either by alphabetical order or by other way. I would suggest don't go by alphabetical. I would suggest you go by themes. That is, as you learn words, you club words of near similar meaning together. All words related to feelings, all words related to reducing somebody's, criticizing somebody, praising somebody. There are words related to praising. There are words related to criticizing. There are words related to help somebody in reducing their pain. Learn by clusters. I think that would be better than alphabetical. Oh, Yashasvi as a joke, Sai Yashasvi says acrimony between wife and husband. Wow, Yashasvi. I don't think you're married, but you know all these things. Okay, fine. So relate the words with your experience for as many words that you can, and write them as notes and use them during revision, and that will be one of the best ways to remember words, in my opinion. And keep them visible. Either you can use apps. Many of the apps, including WordBot, allow you to take your digital notes or write in a notebook or post-its and post it around. But ensure that they are visible, available to you when you are revising. Okay, so you could make flashcard of words that you find very difficult. Okay, so one of the best ways, as I just said now, is clustering, learning by clustering, remembering words that are bound by a theme together, 5 or 7 words, like criticizing, like praising. Learn them together. So in the WordBot app, the words are also classified by themes to help you learn related words together. For example, this Zephyr, Ford, Cascade, Arroyo, Knoll, Avalanche. These are all words related to nature. Zephyr is a mild bridge. Ford is a point where the river becomes too narrow and you can cross. So these are all words related to nature. So you'll find them in a theme called nature. So many of the word lists now classify words by themes to make it easy for you to learn related words together. So use these techniques rather than alphabetical. And yes, you can collate them, okay, if you can also either draw, or you can pick up images. You can look up in Google, and you could also save those pictures and which are more memorable to you, and you're able to relate with the word. This also you could do yourself. You do not draw yourself, but using Google, you could identify images and save it for your own. This will also add fun to your learning, and it will help you when you're revising, and it will help. This will serve as a very good mnemonic to some people who are usually graphic and visually aligned. This can take time, but many of the word lists would have already done it for you. One of the most best ways is to take vocabulary tests. The GRE is not a vocabulary test, I agree, but mugging can become boring. Mugging, memorizing can become boring. So you need tests which allow you to apply the word, and it triggers your gray cells. And in the process, you learn the nuances of the word. So I think vocabulary tests enable you to start thinking, makes your learning process active rather than memorizing in a plain manner. So take a lot of vocabulary tests. The purpose of vocabulary test is not to build your reasoning, but the purpose is to help you remember the word and understand the right nuance of the word, and to make the process, make the learning process more active, to make you to think about the right context in which to use the word. It won't test your reasoning. So take a lot of vocabulary tests. So again in WordBot, we have various types of tests to make vocabulary tests. So we have level 1 test, which allows you to which tests only whether you know the meaning of the word. Then we have level 2 test, which checks whether you can apply the word in a situation, in a context. And third, we have tests of synonyms, which tests whether you can differentiate words with near similar meanings. So whatever we talked about in this session about how to learn a word, we have tests in the word bot which actually enable you to do this vocabulary tests, which actually enable you to hone your knowledge of words in the manner it is needed for GRE. So this test is also one good way, apart from images and so on, making out your own usage sentence. Once you amass a certain vocabulary, some 200, 300 or 400 words, it's best to start taking vocab tests. And the test in WordBot, it's a bot, so it keeps a track of your results, and it slowly starts identifying words which are totally mastered, words which are only partially mastered. That is based on how many attempts you take to answer the question, and it finds out words which you are not mastered. Then eventually it keeps a track and starts giving you personalized word lists, focusing on words which you are less mastered. It also picks out words which you are not revised for a long time. So in the WordBot, you can learn words, you can revise words, and you can take tests, vocabulary tests, and the app keeps a track of what you do, and so that it starts giving you more and more words which you have not completely mastered, and words that you didn't revise for a long time. So this is very good. So WordBot is one app. There may be other apps which may enable you to do this. So make use of these kind of apps. So I hope this is the. So I guess now you know how to learn words, what kind of words to learn, how to look at a sentence, and how to recollect or remember the words that you learned. I hope you got a good idea of how to go about. Any questions now? Mansi is asking, should you learn words that have multiple meanings? Yeah, when you learn words, a few actually the words that are asked in GRE or what comes in text completion, sentence equivalence questions, they'll be fairly advanced words. So they will have nuances, but they will not have multiple meanings. It's only the common words like articles. Articles also means a news publication. Article also means an object like a cell phone or a bottle, right? Only common words typically have a lot of meanings, but advanced words, slightly advanced words which actually come in GRE, they will have nuances, but they will not usually have multiple meanings. So that will not be a problem, Mansi. I hope you get my point. Yashaswini is asking last minute strategies for taking GRE in the coming 15 days. Then Yashaswini, I would say that since the context is vocabulary, I would suggest that you stop vocabulary building 7 or 8 days before GRE, and you better revise what you already learned. That will be better, rather than, because you try to learn new words, it takes time to sink in. So in my opinion, instead of trying to learn new words, you revise whatever you already learned.
We've officially come to an end to the first edition of this masterclass. If you have any more questions, like I said, the contact information is available right on the screen right now. So you can just reach us at that number 9888445327, right? Now with that, I come to the end of this online seminar, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this session, and I hope you got informative content to prepare for your GRE, and I wish I could see you in my upcoming webinars as well. Until I see you in my upcoming seminars, this is Vishnu and Yuki signing off. A very good evening and take care, guys.